Hello students, I am Rajeshri ma'am and today I am going to explain you a chapter from the course book of class 7 ICSC Focus, and the name of the chapter is The Night the Roof Blew Off. It is a story by Ruskin Bond. Ruskin Bond was a British writer, but he stayed a long years in India, and especially in the Himalayan region. So many of his stories are set in that region, and this story has also a background of Himalayan region, when where there was a stormy night, and the roof of an old man had blown off by the storm at that night, and he was recollecting his memories here. So let's start with the story. The looking back at the experience, I suppose it was the sort of thing that should have happened in a James Thurber story like The Dam That Burst or The Ghost Who Got In. And here the very first sentence, that looking back at the experience, is showing that the author is recollecting his memory about a stormy night. I suppose it was the sort of thing that should have happened in a James Thurber story, and he is now imagining that the storm was like the happening in the James Thurber story. James Thurber was an American writer and cartoonist, and in his stories the dam used to burst and the ghost used to break into the house suddenly in an unexpected manner with a great intensity or strength or power, and the storm had also come at that night in that intensity and at that suddenness. But I wasn't thinking of Thurber at the time, although a few of his books were among the many I was trying to save from the icy rain and sleet pouring into my bedroom and study. At that time he was not at all thinking about James Thurber, because he had no time. He had to save his books, and there were many books also which were written by James Thurber, and he was trying to save those books from the rain which was pouring into his bedroom and study. And the icy rain, the rain was icy because it was at a high altitude. He was at a high altitude of Himalayan region. And icy and sleet is the rain containing pieces of ice, and it was pouring into the bedroom of the author. We are used to sudden storms up here at 7,000 feet in the Himalayan foothills, and the old building in which I lived has for over 100 years. We are used to, that means we were habituated to sudden storms, this type of sudden storms at 7,000 feet in the Himalayan foothills. And the old building, and that building was also habituated to that type of storm, because it was 100 years old and received the brunt of the wind. That means it got impacts of such strong wind and the rain as they sweep across the hills from the east. And the storm and the rain used to come from the eastern part of the hills. We had lived in the building for over 10 years without any untoward happening. The author, that means the old man, was staying there in that house for 10 years. And without any untoward happening, that means unexpected or inconvenient happening. He did not experience any this type of untoward happening. It had even taken the shock of an earthquake without sustaining any major damage. It had also experienced earthquake, or the family of the author and the author himself had experienced earthquake while staying in that house, but without sustaining any major damage. Sustaining means suffering, but it not had suffered this kind of major damage as the storm had done to it. It is difficult to tell the new cracks from the old. The house was old, that is why it had many old cracks on it, And the earthquake had also made many cracks on it, but those were almost the same, could not be differentiated which were the new cracks and which were the cracks made by the earthquake. It's a three-story building and I live on the top floor with my adopted family, three children and their parents. It was a three-story building and the author was an old man and he used to live there with his adopted family, and they had three children too. The roof consists of corrugated tin sheets, the ceiling of wooden boards. The building had corrugated tin sheets, roof of corrugated tin sheets. That means corrugated means the tin with waves or parallel lines on it, parallel folds on it. The ceiling of wooden board, and it had also ceiling under it made of wooden board. That's the traditional hill station roof. Ours had held fast in many a storm, but the wind that night was stronger than we had ever known it. Ours had held fast, that means that God stayed protected from many a storm, but the wind that night was the strongest of all. It was cyclonic in its intensity and it came rushing at us with a high pitched, eerie wail. It was cyclonic. The storm was cyclonic. Cyclone is a storm which a strong wind which blows anti-clockwise in the northern hemisphere, and it has great power and strength in it. It came rushing, that means it came with a great speed at us with a high pitched eerie wail, and it made the sound of crying, a frightening cry. And the old roof groaned and protested at the unrelieved pressure. And the old roof was groaned, that means made a sound of pain, that means like it was getting pain for the storm, and protested at the and it was trying to protest the unrelieved pressure of the storm. It took this battering for several hours while the rain lashed against the window and the lights kept coming and going. And it took this battering. Battering means beating or striking, a strong striking for several hours. It took this, that means it tolerated or borne, while the rain lashed against the window. Lashing means to beat someone with a whip, and the rain was whipping the window, and the lights kept coming and going, and the lightning of the sky was putting on and putting out. There was no question of sleeping, but we remained in bed for warmth and comfort. There was no question of sleeping because it was a stormy night and everyone was frightened, scared of the storm, and that is why they couldn't sleep, but they remained lying on the bed because to get warmth and comfort. That fire had long since gone out, that means gone out means extinguished, the chimney stack having collapsed. Chimney stack is the part of the chimney which is projected above the roof, and that had broken. Collapse means broken, totally broken down, and the rainwater was coming through that hole with all the dirts in the chimney. After about 4 hours of buffeting, the roof could take it no more. And after getting hit by the storm for 4 hours, the roof could not tolerate it anymore. My bedroom faces east, so my portion of the roof was the first to go. And the bedroom of the author is in the east, and the storm was also coming from the east, and that is why his roof had first blew away from his room. The wind got under it and kept pushing until, with a ripping, groaning sound, the metal sheets shifted from their moorings, some of them dropping with claps like thunder onto the road below. And the wind got under it, and when the roof had blown away, then the wind got under it and it was pushing the moorings. Moorings means the nuts and bolts with which the tin sheet was attached to the roof. So and the metal sheet and the metal when the metal sheet had gone away, then the moorings started loosening and or getting loose, and they had dropped from their places to the onto the road. So that's it. I thought nothing worse can happen as long as the ceiling stays on. I am not getting out of my bed. So the author said, the old man thought that nothing worse can happen because it was the darkness of night. They couldn't go outside the house, and there was a ceiling. Actually, there was a ceiling of the board under the roof, and that was protecting him as much as possible. And so as long as the ceiling stays on, as long as the ceiling is there, he would not get out of the bed. He thought, we will pick up the roof in the morning. And he thought that I would be staying in the bed because there was no use of getting outside the house. There it was a stormy night, total darkness outside. So he had to lie on his bed at that time, keep on lying on the bed at that time. Let's revise. At what height in the Himalayas are storms common? And it was the height of 7,000 feet where the storms are common. Were all the cracks in the ceiling new? No, there were no, all the cracks were not new, because it was an old building. What does the author say about them? The author says that there were many cracks which were made by the earthquake, but they could not be differentiated or distinguished from the old cracks which was caused by by the years. Why did the author and his family remain in bed during the storm? The author and his family remained in the bed during the storm because there was no use for moving, no use of moving from there. It was a stormy night. There was a heavy rainfall and darkness outside, so they could not do anything at that time. So this is the revision of the portion I have explained today, and I will take the another part in my next video. Till then, bye.